Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 13th episode of the Mojoverse podcast. I'm Mo.
And this is Joe.
And we're going to be going through some summer TV shows and some games we've been playing. So, Joe, you've been watching a lot of Wynonna Earp.
Yeah, it's a little gem that I found on Netflix recently. They have the whole first season there. At first, I wasn't sure what to expect because the first episode is a little weird. I'm not really sure what's going on, and I'm not sure that the characters are likable. But push through it, and it's actually a pretty good show. It's kind of like Supernatural, but the main character is female. She is the heir/chosen one to get rid of these things called revenants. Basically, they're demons. And I didn't know Mo pointed this out, but it's actually related to a TV show back in the day. It's like black and white.
Wyatt Earp.
Wyatt Earp. That wasn't a supernatural show. It was a Western. So they kind of keep this feel with this. And they say that her great-grandfather was Wyatt Earp, and he killed a whole bunch of outlaws. And now the supernatural element is that all of those outlaws have come back from the dead, and she has to kill them all over again. And there's a curse put on her family with every eldest or chosen one, heir, has to wield his gun, his specific gun, and it only fires when they use it. And
Really?
They have to kill all 77 outlaws, I think, in order for the cycle to be done. But I think the curse just keeps continuing.
Okay. So you're into season 2 now, so you've got all caught up.
Yeah, there's 8 episodes. I've watched up until the 7th. This is going to be a little bit of spoiler at this point, because now I'm going to talk more about what's in the show. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. But if you have, I really liked the ending of the first season. They actually brought the sister back. There was a sister who was killed, and they kept talking about it ever since the beginning. Well, they thought she was killed when they were younger. They took their dad and took the one girl, and they just figured her for dead. She was actually just kidnapped, and one of the revenants was keeping her safe somewhere, and then I don't know, somebody let her loose, and then she ended up in some cult for years or something. So she was pretty badly brainwashed. And I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be a good thing for her to be back, because it's kind of a trope where it's like you're brainwashed and you're probably going to go towards the enemy's side, and it would be a pretty interesting plot point to have one of the sisters, because there's 2 sisters already. The third sister, betrays them.
Okay.
So I found that to be interesting. Didn't expect her to be in love with one of the revenants, and he's kind of like the leader of a gang of revenants. I didn't really understand the ending fully, why she had to open the gate in the first place, like what was the point of that? Because I thought originally it was for her to set the revenants free, and I don't think she wanted all the revenants free. She just wanted the specific one that she was in love with, and she had to cross over, because I guess the city that they're in is called Purgatory. Is like not only does it keep them stuck there, like the revenants that are there, but it's also, we learned that it's a sanctuary as well, so nothing can get in. There's demons out there as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of like there is like a fake barrier kind of thing, and when you cross the gate, which is like a literal gate at the cities for this reach, those revenants start burning, so they can't leave the city, but also things can't get in. So she had to cross, like the heir has to cross over with the revenant, and apparently the gun as well, in order to have him safely cross over without burning. And
so she can take people back and forth.
Yeah, well, I guess that's why they originally kept her safe, because they figured she's the eldest, so she's the heir. And the gun was kind of confused during those last couple of episodes, it misfired on Wynonna, and she was feeling kind of like she was going to be replaced. Like she just got used to being the one that has to, take on this burden and do it. And she's killed quite a few. She killed all the ones that were involved in her sister and her father's death, or when they came on to their home. So she's killed all of them, and now it seems like the sister was actually trained by the father to get rid of, to do this. I don't know where she got her moves at the beginning, her fighting moves, because she wasn't trained, so I find that a little bit weird. And she seemed to have more strength than normal, although I don't think that they get super strength for being an heir, kind of like Buffy, where she actually does get superhuman abilities.
But they never really address that.
She's really address that. Yeah, she's just really strong, and you're like, hey, she's kind of tiny, and
okay.
She's never been trained. Later on, she does get trained by her partner. She does join a cop who is part of a black division where they look into supernatural, weird crimes like that. So he did train her to fight. So it makes a little more sense later on. But the eldest sister is a little bit better than her because she's been training since she was little with the dad.
Oh, that works. So it's kind of hard to gauge all your thoughts on it because there is only a season and a half on it. But you're going to keep watching it? Do you think it's compelling?
Yeah, I think they just actually revealed a huge plot twist at the end. I think the actress that plays Wynonna Earp is actually pregnant in real life, so they decided to run with that in the story, and she's actually pregnant in season 2 now. What I didn't like is that it started off all nice, where I'm kind of on Doc's side. I kind of want her to get together with him. She's been in kind of a love triangle between her cop partner and this other guy, who at first is kind of weird because he's 130 years old. I guess he has he made a deal with the witch, and now he has long life because he was dying back in the day, and he didn't want to die, so he made a deal to extend his life. And so he knew her great-grandfather, so that's a little bit weird. He was best friends with him. But I kind of grew to like him, and I kind of want her to pick him. And she was kind of leaning towards that. And we thought, well, she's only been in a relationship with him, so the baby has to be his. And then, there's this really sweet scene where he gives her a note saying that he's all in and he's going to be there. And he's normally this really tough guy who doesn't like commitment. So it was really adorable, and I'm like, oh, it'd be so perfect for them to be a family together. And then all of a sudden they throw this wrench in where she's like, oh yeah, I was really drunk one day exactly this many days ago, and I just slept with some random person and turned out to be a revenant. She ends up shooting him, which I find was a little bit over the top, because it'd probably be a good idea to know what's going on with that baby. And they're still leaving it up to, oh, well, it might still be Doc's. And I'm like, no, it's not. They're going to go and, they wouldn't have said this, especially after settling down with the idea that it was Doc's. They wouldn't have thrown this in if they weren't going towards this. And it's probably more of an interesting story for her baby to be half demon. But I'm not really liking it because I wanted them to solve the love triangle, and now that's going to complicate things even further because it's neither of theirs, and what are they going to do with the baby? So, and I don't like that she's not trying to figure things out anymore. She's just going with it, and it's well, you don't know if it needs some special care. You don't know if it's going to even kill you because it's never really been done. Although they said that, but I thought that the witch had revenant sons, and they were she said they weren't human. Yeah, she was trying to bring them back to life in season 1, but that was really short-lived. It seemed like it was part of the entire season where she was trying to collect all of their bones because they were scattered everywhere, and she had to collect a full skeleton in order to revive both of them. She ends up only being able to revive one, and he lasts all of but 5 minutes in one episode before he gets killed. So I thought that really weird because they were collecting the bones throughout the whole season, and I thought she was going to be more of a fight than that. And it probably would have been good to know a little bit more about what a half-human, half-demon...
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a really strange, creepy creature thing. It was humanoid, so there was nothing physically creepy about it, but it shrieked and stuff, so...
That's
Still
weird.
don't know what his powers are. Maybe they wanted to keep that a secret, so maybe they decided to just end that story right there.
It seems like there's a lot of build-up for not a lot of payoff on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Weird. Oh, well.
So there's that. And again, they're still trying to figure out how to end the curse. I don't know if it ends with there being no more heirs. And I was like, why don't they just... there wouldn't be a story if they just killed off all the main characters. But I'm thinking, like, that's what the enemies should be thinking, is to kill them and then, well, there's no more heir to continue the curse. So the curse just ends. But I'm thinking maybe that's where they're going with this storyline. They weren't expecting... to go this way, but maybe that's why, because she makes the point to say that she was on 2 types of birth control, there should be no reason why she's pregnant, and I'm thinking maybe she's purposely, like, the universe wants her to be pregnant,
maybe, yeah,
because that's
or
part of the curse, is having another heir.
Curse, or there's some sort of other influence there, like some sort of demon power thing.
Yeah, well, there seems to be, they play with fate and stuff a lot.
Yeah.
There's this one guy called Juan Carlo, and I think they purposely gave him the initials of Jesus Christ. They actually made a joke about that, and he's been sort of whispering in everybody's ear. Okay. So I don't know if he's like an angel or just some sort of good, but he can't interfere. He can only guide, so he's just trying to talk people through doing things that...
Okay.
Yeah, he's trying to tell them, like, don't do this, but do that kind of thing.
In terms of writing, that's a really good way of presenting the story is through that character,
direction. We still don't know what's up with him. He comes and goes whenever he pleases.
All right.
But it seems like there's more than one way to end the curse. Like, there was a couple in season 1. They decided to go with the one where one of them crosses over. But for some reason, not only did that let the one revenant to cross over safely, but it opened like the gate to hell, and a bunch of things were set loose. So I guess that's how to continue the story further, because now not only are there revenants, because that's all there was, that's all we were dealing with in season 1, now we're dealing with all types of different demons. So they're actually saying like there's more supernatural beings.
So it really is turning into supernatural then, isn't it?
Yeah, now they're just hunting down demons, and she's kind of like...
I guess if you have a finite number...
much, but she has to get rid of all these demons that were let loose in the town because of that incident. And I'm not really sure what... Like, because of that, I wasn't really sure what the point of the sister was. Like, why was she trying to do that? I guess she just went nuts and said, well, let everything burn because...
Yeah, why not, right? I guess if you do have a finite number of enemies, like as you said, there's 75...
77.
So if you have that...
7.
Yeah, well, if you have that, you need to bring in some new enemies at some point, right? So why not?
Yeah.
So, Game of Thrones. It's last season. They led up to a lot of stuff at the end of last season.
In one episode. So
yes.
I'm glad that right off the bat, the first episode, they start off with a bang. Quite a bit happens.
So much payoff. It's great, because they've been leading up to it. And they've never been answering anything. It's just been questions, leading up. And it's so nice. Like in the last couple episodes of last season, now the first couple episodes of this season, they're actually paying off what they've been leading up with. So it's really nice. And it's nice to see Arya start, contributing. It's very nice.
For once.
Yeah. So there's a lot of talking back and forth. So
That's not too bad. We pretty much came across... We had a scene with every character who's still alive at this point.
Yeah, which is not that many.
So we know what everybody else is up to.
Daenerys has finally landed.
Yeah, she's in Dragonstone now. Which is cool. I think she should just stay there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think everybody's finally going to get, and that's the episode tonight, I think, actually.
Yeah. Well, we're recording this on Sunday.
Where Daenerys and Jon Snow are finally going to meet. Because I think we've all been waiting for that meeting. That's going to be really interesting. I'm wondering when he's going to find out that he's a Targaryen, though.
Yeah.
Is Bran going to have to tell him? Is he going to find out through some other way?
But now Bran just finally showed up at the wall, and now Jon Snow's gone.
It seems like
We're
they're
assuming,
just missing each other.
Yeah.
But some of them are kind of reuniting. They're all kind of going north, at least.
Mm-hmm.
They're all kind of in the same area. I don't know if Arya is still going to keep going north. Now that she had that encounter with Nymeria, I don't know if she's going to change her mind about that again. Because that encounter basically just told her that, yeah, I'm not the same as I used to be, and neither are you, and we shouldn't be trying to go back home to a place where we don't belong. So now I'm a little bit worried that she's going to change her mind again.
Yeah, it's almost comedic at this point, how they're just missing each other. It's hilarious. But,
A get together would be nice.
Yeah, well, Bran is finally in the area.
We don't see enough of him. For an almighty power that would come in handy, there's not enough showtime for him or stuff to do. He needs to do something.
Yeah. Well, I think he might end up actually having the biggest role at the end of the season, because we have a theory that the three-eyed raven was what led the Mad King mad. And I think he's shown the influence that he can have on people with the Hodor thing. So I think there might be a big role for him to fill later in the season. They haven't been really giving him a heck of a lot of airtime, but I really do think that it's going to get better.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to end up doing something, which is nice, because up to this point he hasn't really done anything. But yeah, so Cersei's crazy. Still.
We should have expected things to go wrong with...
yeah. Well, now we're talking about episode 2.
Yeah, we weren't expecting Euron to show up when they did. We thought maybe the others were going to be able to execute their plan a little bit, but no, now they're all dead.
Yeah, dead. Oh, everybody's dead. So, but we should have been used to that by now. But yeah, they're all dead. So Daenerys still has a couple of armies. One that can't get anywhere because they don't have any boats anymore. So
she lost her allies, though.
Yeah, so we'll have to see.
Maybe she's just going to have to whip out those dragons finally.
I think so, because she kept saying that she doesn't want to, let the dragons loose on the city, but
she doesn't want to destroy too much.
Yeah, but I think at this point, and I think that's what they're setting it up, she's probably going to have to if she wants to take it over. So we'll see. And
the episodes are always gross for some reason now. Both episodes that we saw were completely disgusting, like with Sam. I get what they were trying to do, and it was show that, his job isn't as glamorous as he was hoping for it to be. But
we have to see.
Don't eat supper while watching.
And we were eating supper when we were watching, and that was a bit much. But it is neat to see, because he was all gung-ho to go to the Citadel, and now we just see, once the mundane sets in, it's less glamorous, like you said, and it's really funny, but maybe the scenes went on a little long.
I like that he's taking charge a little bit, though. Like, he's not just taking a back seat. He's actually sneaking in to get the information he wants, sneaking in to heal Jorah, which is nice.
Yeah, well, he's trying, and we leave last episode, or episode 2, with him lopping off layers of Jorah's skin. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how that'll work. And it kind of...
I'm wondering how much of an importance that the grayscale problem actually has, because they gave it so much time like that.
Yeah, like, maybe it's going to play a big role coming up. So, we don't know. It's weird. If it'd be really cool if he can figure out a way to heal it, which would be awesome. That would make all the stuff that he had to do.
For nothing.
Well, yeah, because that was rough too. But You got to give props to the prosthetic department, though.
Yeah,
They're very good. Very good. It looked very painful. So, yeah. So, that's another thing. We're only 2 episodes into the new season, and we're hoping everything's going to pay off, which it should. It seems like it's going to. Jon Snow does need the dragon glass, which apparently Daenerys is sitting on a huge reserve of it. So, we'll see. Let's hope they like each other. They have a tendency to be headstrong and stubborn, so maybe not, but we'll see.
And they're giving more attention to the Lord of Light, so I wonder what he has to do with everything.
Yeah, what's her name just
How
came
is that
back.
Connected?
Yeah, she just came back. So
yeah, but now also the Hound can see things in the fire,
yeah, that's right.
and that's related to the Lord of Light as well. So
that's right. And
I thought he was evil at first, because when we first saw Melisandre, and she gave birth to this weird, creepy shadow thing at one point, that just seemed like an evil magic to me.
Yeah, but I can't really say, it's good or bad, right? It seems to be all over the place and slightly indecisive.
Yeah,
so
it seems like the Hound saw the White Walkers, which is like a good warning. It's good to know that they exist so we can get rid of them.
Yeah, but people need to start taking everybody seriously. And, Jon Snow is not the most highly regarded. And if he says they're coming, people are like, "Bah." Sam...
I'm wondering if Daenerys is going to believe him.
Yeah, I don't know.
How big this threat is.
Sam's in the Citadel saying, "Oh, yeah, there," and everybody's like, "Bah," except for that one guy.
It's kind of a weird story to believe.
Yeah, so it really bugs me because we saw them too, right? Yeah. We're watching the show. But let's hope people start believing them, because it'll make it a lot easier to watch. I don't know. So we're also watching Orphan Black. This is the last season as well.
Also the last season, yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, it's an interesting show. We have talked about it before, about these clones and the experiments being done on them, basically. There's a lot of... basically, I have no idea what's going on. Because it's jumping back and forth. It's going crazy.
They're throwing a lot at you during this last season, because they haven't really been giving you many answers throughout the series as it is. So now they're trying to resolve everything. But it's a little bit weird how I feel like we're going off topic somewhat, because before it used to be about the clones figuring out why they were created and where do they go from here and who's trying to control them and who owns them and who's going after them. Like at first it was somebody's killing them or somebody's trying to control them. So it was really all about just figuring that out. Well, now that we have that sort of figured out, now it's all about this one guy, P.T. Westmoreland.
He says.
Yeah, and it
Spoilers.
just feels like we're talking about different things. Like now it's just about them getting their freedom, and like they just don't want to be bothered anymore. And at first I thought, we were thinking, okay, well they're doing experiments on them because they're trying to figure out how to create clones, and they're trying to figure out the nurture versus nature by spreading them out, trying to figure out...
Because that would make sense.
Yeah, how to scientifically, like, some of them are sick, and we're trying to see how to cure some of them and to see if environmental factors have an effect with that. Because there's 2 in particular, Sarah and Helena, they were twins because they were born together. Why they're fertile, why they can have kids and no one else can. So I thought, oh, that's a pretty interesting story. Like, why are they different from all the other clones when they're clones? But now it doesn't seem to be about that. They're studying Kira, and we're figuring out that she has some sort of healing power. We're not talking about her psychic power for some reason. That's just not being explained. But she heals really quickly. And then we found out that the originals had some sort of weird healing genome, and they're trying to isolate that and figure out, like, I guess it jumps a generation.
Yeah, it skipped the clones generation.
Yeah, the kids are actually able to heal, because it looks like Helena's twins, she's pregnant right now.
Yeah, she got a tree through her.
Yeah, and they healed. The twins are fine in there.
Actually, that was a really funny hospital scene, I have to say.
Yeah, pretty gross, but that's our Helena.
Yeah.
So it seems like, okay, now we're trying to figure out how to have people able to heal themselves, which is cool. If you get to study them, I don't know, like if you have to create clones, then that kind of defeats the purpose, but so that's a little bit confusing. But then now all of a sudden we're learning that it's just this old guy who's dying and he just wants to figure out how to prolong his life.
He's pretending to be Westmoreland and he's just some old dude.
Yeah, so it's a little bit anticlimactic.
They spent all these episodes building up that campsite and it's like, okay, it burned down, what the heck. Weird.
Yeah, like at first, like they were saying that he's 170 years old, and I thought that was a little bit weird. That was going towards the supernatural realm, and this show's not really supernatural. I mean, it's kind of like futuristic science. Like the science was all still pretty believable.
Yeah, it's like the first season of Fringe, where it kind of split the difference between supernatural and scientific. And it blurred the lines in between, but that did seem to be going just way off the wall. And I said, let's stick with the science kind of believable stuff.
Yeah.
And it turns out he was just lying, so that helps.
Yeah, so it worked out in the end.
Yeah.
And there's no fountain of youth or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it was neat to see Cosima as like Nancy Drew trying to figure it out, but she's not very good at it. But she ended up escaping anyway, so that's okay. But it's very confusing right now, and they seem to be scattered all over the place. So as of right now,
they can't really make up their minds on what they want to do too. It's like give Kira, run away with Kira, and give Kira, run away.
Yeah, well, Mrs. S is like that. Well, we should give them Kira, and then a half an hour later, she's loading up her gun, saying, "We're gonna go get Kira." It's like, wait, whoa, what?
And then poor MK just died for nothing.
Yeah. They brought back the cosmetic clone. I forget her name. So she's going to have, it seems to have a little bit... Crystal, yes. She's going to have a bit more of a role coming up to the finale, too. So maybe they'll bring them all together again like they did with that supper that was really hard to film.
She just stumbles upon things and gets it right.
Yeah, it's really funny. So, it's kind of hard to make a determination now whether we like the season or not, but... let's hope everything wraps up nicely. Yeah. We'll be reconvening on a later podcast too. 3 more episodes. That'll probably be next month's podcast where we either talk about it in glowing terms or we're ranting about it. So we'll see. So we've been playing a couple games too. So you've been playing Ever Oasis on the 3DS.
Yes.
So I remember how excited you were for that to come out.
Game. And I actually really like it. I wasn't disappointed. It's really adorable. What you're supposed to do is that you're called a seedling, and you're kind of like a specific chosen one where you could have your own oasis, and the oasis are important because they bring like purity and light into the world or something. They fend off like some sort of darkness or something. So the oases are important. You have to like work together with a water sprite in order to keep the place going and growing. So we did that. We started off on our brother's oasis, and then we think our brother got killed, so that's pretty depressing.
That's a little dark for
it's a little dark for a little cute thing. And then he sends us away. He kind of rescues us and sends us away so we can create our own, because we're like the last hope, the only one left that can actually create an oasis. So you start creating your oasis. What you do is that you find people that'll, like travelers and stuff, that'll come and settle into your oasis, and all of them, like all the seedlings that are from the same race as you, want to build these little shops called bloom booths. So you can either have them, you can create it right away, or you can just wait, and every time a shop is opened, it kind of gives you experience and upgrades your oasis, which actually grows your HP bar. So it actually gives you more health, it actually gives you a lot of good rewards for doing this, and it levels up your oasis, which lets you expand it and grow more bloom booths, basically.
So what you're trying to do then, the objective is to grow the oasis almost like a SimCity style.
Yeah, like the biggest focus is your oasis. So you got to take care of it and make sure all the residents are happy. In order to make them happy and keep your health bar, you get a bonus on your health bar for this too. If everybody's really happy, is by giving them stuff to keep their booth stocked. So you actually have to make sure that they have enough to sell and most of those items are items that you can go out and get, from enemy drops or from pots or whatever surrounding the environment on the outside. Because the other half of the game is actually going out and fighting enemies. And
you get items out of that?
Dungeons and solving puzzles. And yeah, you just collect items. So really, as long as you pretty much collect everything and you make a point to break everything and collect everything.
It's a very game.
You shouldn't run out of anything, and you always have to go back to your Oasis. Make sure you don't, because time goes by where it's like day and night. You don't have to sleep if you don't want to. You can actually sleep just to speed up the time to go to the next day. Because if you're out at night, the enemies are stronger.
Oh, okay.
But you can just wait around your Oasis too and just talk to the residents, because they're, to a certain point, the booths close really late at night. You can actually see the time. But all the characters walk around outside, so you can talk to them to solve. They have problems, and you can go to them for quests, and once you complete their specific personal quest, you can upgrade the Bloom booth, which means they can sell more, but they also run out less often of items, which is really good. And you make more money that way, because when they sell, you get a portion of money, and you get to keep that money and buy equipment for yourself or clothes for yourself. You can change your clothes, so it's kind of cute. It doesn't really do anything, but it's just an aesthetic thing.
So it's Monster Rancher mixed with Animal Crossing, Rune Factory, and Sim City.
Yeah, basically.
Sounds fun.
So it's all the fun things put together. You have other travelers from different races. There's actually, so far I've come across like a weasel type race, then there's like scorpions, and then there's like bunny rabbits, so it's all pretty adorable. They're mostly good for bringing along on adventures. They're your fighters, basically. Everybody has a different skill set, whether it's a bonus, like defeat this certain type of enemy and, get twice the amount of items, or get an advantage. So all of them have at least that small kind of bonus, but a lot of them are really key and important to the story and solving puzzles, because you might need one who has like a hammer power where only the hammer can break down large rocks that are in the way.
Okay.
Or another one has like a leaf power where you're a wall and you need that wall because boulders are coming at you and you need to stop them.
So you have to go back and forth. And
There's
as you get more,
a lot of back and forth.
Okay.
I would say that's the only downside of the game. At least what they did was that you can warp like literally anywhere at any time back to the Oasis, and then you can warp back. As long as you don't warp somewhere else by accident or take a quest that cancels out your warp gate.
Okay.
You can warp back and forth exactly to where you were in the dungeon. You don't really need any checkpoints. But there are a bunch of saves there, and you can warp through the save, but you can also just warp wherever. But you have to do that so many times because you're only allowed to take 2 with you, and sometimes places have you need like 4 or 5 different types of those special powers that with specific people.
You got stuck at one point.
There was actually one part in the game, and I think other people got stuck here too, where you needed a specific, basically a specific weapon that at that point you can't have yourself because you didn't unlock it yet. And one of the characters, the new characters that you have to get at the beginning of that level, I think does have it. It's like a long-range weapon in order to reach something, but you were on a mission with somebody that you started off with because you have to make it to, they have to join your party and you have to go to the end of the level with them before you can really go anywhere or do anything else. They force you to follow through with this until you're done. So it wouldn't let me leave the dungeon and it wouldn't let me warp out. And I couldn't switch my characters.
And you got stuck in that area.
Yeah, I got really confused and stuck, so I don't know if there's a way around that, but I ended up resetting it and making sure that I brought that character with me before I started that area.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. But do you say all in all that...
You can save a lot, and every time something gets really tedious and boring in the game, such as when you're at your Oasis, and your Oasis just gets so big at one point that you get tired of having to walk from one end to the other in order to check out all the booths, because you have to regularly check them for their stock, and you have to collect the money individually yourself. So that got long after a while, and after it did, when you get to certain levels with your Oasis and at certain points, they actually let you warp across your Oasis now to different sections. So you can just warp around all over. So when that got tiring, they solved it with that. When going into each individual bloom booth got annoying in order to restock their stuff, they set up a booth at one of the spots in your Oasis that's permanently there that you can just talk to the NPC that's there, and they can restock everything right from there. Just you can select individual ones that you want to restock, but you can just hit restock all, which is quite perfect.
Well, that's good. It shows that they're thinking about the gameplay and the experience. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. And then, there's other little things that you can do, like you can garden. There's this garden, and your garden also expands to the amount of plots that you have, and then you can grow trees, and this is important because these are things you might need later on to restock certain booths. So you can do gardening, so with the excess seedlings that you have, and you don't have any room, if you don't have any room to create more bloom booths, you can just use those seedlings who are doing nothing to garden for you, so you don't have to, plant it, water it, wait 3 days, and harvest it. They just do all the work for you. And then there's the same spot at the front. You can talk to one of the NPCs and just go to the gardening section and just collect what they did for you. And each individual seedling also has different and rare types of plants that they can just plant on their own. You can specifically give them seeds that you want them to plant, or they could just for free, just start planting their own stuff that they're good at.
Nice.
And then what they decided to do with the extra fighters that you're not using anymore, or that you're not bringing with you out to fight enemies and solve dungeons, the extra ones now, what you can do is go send them on explorations. So you can either have them level up when they fight specific enemies and collect those specific drops, or you can just send them out to just collect specific items that are just out there in the environment, like if you have to cut down a cactus or if you have to break a pot. So you can decide between those two different things. They get a little bit of experience from going out and collecting things, but not as much experience as when they have to fight enemies to get the drops. So you can send up, it seems like, so far I have enough to send on 3 different expeditions. You send out 3 together, and there's no danger of them dying or anything. You just send out whoever you want, and it's good to be able to keep them leveled up in case you want to switch them out. And you don't want lower level.
That's a big thing with Pokemon. If you keep them in your PC, you got a whole bunch of level 5s, and it's really annoying.
You have to restart. So these guys, it's a little bit of a slower process, but you could just keep sending them out over and over. And depending on the place you send them out, it might take more time in order for them to come back. But the time can go by pretty quickly in the game, so you don't really have to worry about the days that go by there. You can really just sit there and do nothing if you wanted to.
No worries. Like any good video game.
Yeah, so I like how there's more and more things that you get to unlock that just keeps you busy in the game. There's more things to do, and they just find easier ways for you to do it. And it's also good to not have to collect those items yourself anymore, really, because the more bloom boosts you have, it gets kind of hard sometimes because certain items are only in certain areas, and you don't want to go back to those lower level areas, or you don't want to have to go back to the harder ones even, and you can just send them out to go and collect certain things.
Yeah, well, that's good. Like I say, they seem like they're thinking about the gameplay and the people playing it, so that's good.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a story to it, but it's just...
Yeah, with collecting games like that, you don't necessarily have to have one.
And you can do things, too, like another extra thing that they gave you is that you have these cards, and you need to get so many stamps from happy people from the siblings. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's different types of booths. Like there's booths that are there that are food related. There's booths that are there for fashion. Booths that are there just like for toys and novelties items. Depends what they're selling. And they actually group it up like that, where it depends what you can have a festival. And festival brings in a lot more travelers, which means a lot more money. You get to make more money. And it's just a really cute event. And you need to fill out this card before you can have a festival. So you can go
you need a license?
to each. Yeah, you can. You just need like 12 of them or something.
Okay.
You can go to each booth, and when you've restocked them enough times and kept them happy enough times, they'll stamp the card for you, and you can just hold that festival. And it's a nice way to get a good boost of money all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And it's really adorable to see all the different characters that just keep coming. I get like 2 or 3 every day who just keep coming, and you have to solve, most of them, in order for them to become a resident of your Oasis, you need to solve a problem for them first. So either it's a quest where you have to go out and do something or find someone. That's kind of like your side questing in this game in order to acquire more residents in order to level up your Oasis and ultimately yourself, like with your health bar and stuff. Or sometimes they just ask you to have certain booths in place, like they really want ice cream there. So in order to keep them as a resident, you need to have, previous residents there already. So that's kind of another cool element
Nice.
to do. And it's really adorable to see. There's these types of creatures called newts, and they look like little fluffy penguins, and they're absolutely adorable, and they're the ones that you want to get to your Oasis, and they're the ones that spend the money mostly. And you can't do anything with them, you can't really talk to them, they just make this cute little sound because they don't talk our language, I guess.
That works.
But they're so cute.
Yeah, well, there you go. So that's good, because I know you were playing that game a lot, so there seems to be a lot of different elements to it, and that's pretty cool. We've been playing through for a while now, actually, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. So it turns out that's a game for the PSP, or PS Vita, I can't remember, and we're actually playing it on console, we're playing it on PS4, so they've moved it over to that. It's a bit of a different one. The story plays out very long form, right? It's not all the time, but there's a lot of different gameplay elements, which are pretty cool.
This is my first Digimon game since the Game Boy, really. I think that was the last time I played a Digimon game. So I'm glad that they made one for the PS4. There's already another one out, I think, actually. I don't know if it's a sequel or just another standalone Digimon game. But I wasn't disappointed. I'm kind of happy with it. The story is a little bit boring and dragging on. I don't really care for it all that much. You work at a detective agency because you're trying to figure out why, like, you almost died, and we're trying to figure out why our bodies kind of half ghost-like, and now we can, like, hack into servers and just physically put ourselves inside of computers and stuff, which actually comes quite in handy trying to go from place to place.
The main story revolves around Eden, which is like this virtual world. People log in, their bodies stay at home, but they're logged in with like virtual reality and that kind of stuff. But we're special for some. Yeah, we're special though that we can actually go into the game, but also into like the back end servers and the little hacker space and that kind of stuff.
So yeah, there's like a lot of hacking elements involved, and I like how they're talking about how Digimon, because that's the real story, like in the anime, where they're sort of like computerized, but they're real creatures too at the same time.
They have feelings, man.
Yeah. So we're trying to help them out in their world. They're kind of crossing over into ours a little bit again too, which we're trying to stop. There's like this evil corporation too that we're trying to stop. Aside from that, there's always this little hub that you can go to where you can go back to certain levels to train or pick up items. You have like kind of like your Pokemon Pelagio here, where you have your islands. You can upgrade your islands where you can have more and more Digimon on them. they basically just hang around there, and you can give them things to do, like search for items, upgrade items, or you can train them, so it's good to be able to level up on that.
And you can
farm.
get little like punching bags and stuff for your farm to help train them.
Yeah, you can get expansions to either expand the island itself or put items in there just to help speed up the process of leveling up. And you want to level up certain specific elements of that Digimon too, like their attack power, speed power. Sometimes you need that in order to digivolve certain ones. Depends on I know there's some sort of really complicating system of having so many points towards being able to put them towards a specific, like your attack, or putting it towards your defense, and they only allow you so many points to plus. And it gets really complicating after a while when you want to just try to unlock all the Digivolutions possible.
Yeah, well, because sometimes you have to de-Digivolve, then train, and then evolve, and then de-Digivolve and train some more. It's confusing, it really is.
And there's this element called Cam, kind of like a friendship element. You can level it up every time, you get like 1 point every time you battle with them. If you actually bring them in battle, you're allowed to have 3 with you during the actual fight, and then have some reserves. And the reserves is also, depending how far you are in the game and how many items that you got in order to expand that party, you can have more, but the bigger ones take up more room. Like if you have like a champion, it'll take up more room than if you have a rookie. So it depends how many you can bring with you. They level up too, but at a slower rate, kind of like Pokemon. But their cam doesn't go up unless they're actually in the forefront party. And it only goes up 1 per battle. Or if you have them on the farm, you actually have to feed them food. But the food, you have to buy it, and it gets pretty expensive after a while. And it only goes up 1 at a time at the beginning. You get just the simplest food. Just goes up 1, and it sometimes fails. So you can buy it, throw it at them, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that sucks. Later on, you can get, it's more expensive food, but it has more of a higher accuracy rate.
There is one interesting little glitch. There's a Coliseum, and you can fight everybody, and you can just lose at the last person. You keep all the experience, but then you can go back because you didn't actually complete the Coliseum level. If you beat the last person, it locks it. You can't do it again. But if you go back to if you die at the end, heal up and do all that stuff, and then go back and fight everybody, die at the end, you can basically farm really quickly. It's fun. We found out about that later, after we beat most of the levels of the Coliseum.
Yeah.
So now we're stuck on the really hard one.
So, yeah. I really like that too, because not only do you get experience, but you also have to encounter the same Digimon multiple times in order to, it's kind of like this experience encounter meter kind of thing. You have to get them to 100% in order to actually be able to acquire their egg and then hatch it and actually have that Digimon. You can bring it up to 200%, and I think that
you get better stats and stuff.
You get better, you start off with better stats, so that's always the best way to go about it. So every time you encounter these at the Coliseum, you could just keep that encounter rate too, which is actually pretty good.
It's not cheating, I swear.
Yeah. Although it's probably, you get better stats growing them all the way from the beginning, like as a baby, instead of collecting them that way as already a higher level Digimon. Again, there's this other element that you have to, it's called ABI, and this really frustrates me because you have to have a certain high ABI to get certain ultimates. I don't know if they go to Mega even in this. I think so. I think later on in the game, I'm only so far, but they're actually, you can do fusions where you can combine two.
They hinted on that right now.
They have to be at high friendship, they have to be at high ABI, and the ABI is even harder to get because it's points that you get for leveling them up, but also you can de-digivolve them. And I'm not entirely sure of what the process is, but the higher they level they are when you digivolve them, because they go back to level 1 every time you digivolve them to the next stage. Basically, the higher they are and the higher they fall, the higher your ABI goes up.
We were taking some really high level Digimon, digivolving them, and they went back to level 1, and we were like, no.
Yeah, so I don't know if frontwards or backwards which one's the best, but you just keep doing it. You have to do it over and over again with your... And these are probably really good Digimon that you have at this point that you want to battle with, but you can't because you're bringing them back to... Their stats are a little bit improved, but not enough if they're still at level 1. They level up quickly enough, but not towards those hard levels. Like, once you reach level 30, it's kind of hard to keep pushing through at that point. There's only so much game, and you don't want to just keep leveling up forever. There's not really any... Aside from the Coliseum, there's not really good farming spots so far in order to keep getting them to those high levels, because that's just going to take forever. So I wanted to, collect them all like I usually do for Pokemon, but at this point, I don't know if that's going to happen. Yeah. You can kind of fill out your sheet of all the Digimons. If you see one, it kind of counts, but it's a little bit grayed out because you don't actually have it, or you haven't had it. And then, you're working with your limits and what you can carry at the time, so it gets a little bit frustrating, but obviously my favorite ones are Anjumon and Anjuwamon, so I'm just trying to, figure out all their different types that I can do. And it looks like for this game, there's going to be a new fusion that hasn't been in any other games before, but you can fuse...
Super Megamon.
Anjuwamon and Lady Devimon, which are like some of my favorite. I like Devimon, Lady Devimon, Anjuwamon, because they're just like they're the black and white. And you can fuse those two together for one that looks really cool, and that's pretty much the one that I'm aiming for to do. And
it's not easy,
the rest, though. Well, there's probably a new game plus that you're going to have to do if you're, a stickler for 100% completion.
Which we are, usually.
Yeah, and then there's these medals that you have to collect, and that have, like, Digimon on them, and they all have their own number, and there's a bajillion of those.
So for a game of collectors, especially Pokemon, but it's done in a very complex way. And doing the evolution is not easy. There's a lot of thinking and math involved, which I try not to do very often, thinking or math. So, again, the story is kind of weird, but the gameplay makes up for it, I think. It's an interesting game.
Oh, yeah, it's fun enough. Like, there's a lot to do. Like, you're not going to run out of Digimon that you have to... there's just so many different things that you can... digivolve them too, but you have to meet that requirement, so...
Yeah, well, that's the hard part.
Yep.
So, for me, I've been playing a lot of Watchdogs 2. I actually liked the first one. I mentioned that in the podcast. A lot of people didn't, but I thought it was really good. The story was odd, but the gameplay was really fun. This one is the exact same issue. The story, to me, seems a little off. We're a group of hacktivists, and I'm playing one of the characters, and you have to go and hack the game's version of Google and Facebook, and it's kind of weird because there's a lot of things that they do that you don't necessarily agree with, but it's fun to play. There's a lot less shooting people in this game. There's more... Yeah, well, no, there's a lot more of that. There's the other game was very stealth, but there was an element of combat. In this one, you can actually get away with very little combat. And there's been some times where I've wanted to run in and shoot people like I did in the first one, but you can't do that because you don't get the very good weapons right off the bat. But I was trying really hard to get both RC vehicles. So there's a little, what they call jumper, and
those
there's...
are cute.
Yeah,
you get to control them.
I put on the little insult feature on my jumper, so I drive around just insulting people and they chase after me. It's really funny. But I wanted to get both RCs. There's a quadcopter and a jumper, and those come in so handy when you're trying to hack. The quadcopter can't do physical hacks. I found that out the hard way. where you need the jumper to do it. So what I do, I use the quadcopter for like hacking into servers and stuff where you have to move those little dials around, and also kind of scouting out areas, and then I send in my jumper to go and insult people and do physical hacks. It's a lot of fun. But you can get away with doing just those two, really. You don't have to go in and shoot people that much. And there is a range on them, but it's big enough that if you can hide somewhere in the little restricted area, you can just get your RCs to do most of the work. It's very sneaky, so there's a lot less, defending yourself and shooting and takedowns, right? The driving element is basically the exact same. You're not in Chicago this time, you're in San Francisco, so the layout is kind of weird, just like San Francisco is, but there's a lot more water things you can do. There's sailing and boats and that kind of stuff, so that's fun. One thing I kind of liked in the first game was the popularity meter, and that's not in this game anymore. They use something called the DedSec app instead, and you're trying to get followers. In the first game, if you killed a bunch of people, like you're just driving and you just run them over, your bar will go down, right? There's a popularity bar, and if it goes into the negative, the public, you'll actually hear it on the news, where the public will think that you're like a nuisance and a vigilante killer instead of like a hacktivist and that kind of stuff. And it was really interesting, but they didn't do that in the new game. So I haven't played enough of it, and I haven't messed around with that DedSec app enough to know really what it does. But I'd say so far it's actually more enjoyable than the first one. It's actually a lot of fun. Don't let the E3 demo get you wrong, because he ran in and started shooting people. It's actually very stealthy and a throwback to old school stealth games, and not like Grand Theft Auto. It's a lot of fun, I have to say, so I'm looking forward to playing more of it. So that's pretty much all the time we have for the 13th episode of the Mojoverse podcast. You can follow us on social media everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and Mojoverse Sudbury. Now, though, we just launched a website. It's called mojoverse.ca, and that's where you can see all of our awesome products from the store. We're going to be having our podcast there, too. It'll link to the podcast hosts. There's a photo gallery, so if you take pictures at conventions, that kind of stuff, you can submit them. There's a really cool calendar as well, calendar of events that Mojoverse is going to be at these conventions, or anything really nerdy going on in the area.
And we ship anywhere in Canada, so...
Yeah, it's really cool. We've been working quite a bit on the website for a while, and we're really proud of it. It looks really cool. So check that out, mojoverse.ca. There's going to be a couple bugs because it is new, but it's a really neat website. We're really proud of it. So we're going to continue watching these shows and playing these games, and we will come out again next month with a 14th episode. So let us know what you think. Yeah, you can always send us a message at mojoversesudbury@gmail.com. And until next time, my name is Mo.
And this is Joe.
And we'll talk to you later on the Mojoverse podcast.